Any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good. Just take a second and let that sink in. That's a quote from the famous Renaissance diplomat Niccolo Machiavelli. And honestly, it perfectly sets the stage for the deeply amoral, highly strategic stuff we're looking at today. If you've ever felt like, you're playing by the rules, being a totally good person, working your tail off, while everyone else just seems to be effortlessly maneuvering right past you, well, this explainer is going to completely shatter your illusions about fairness.
Okay, so let's dive into this. Can you actually, truly opt out of the game of power? Man, it is such a tempting thought, isn't it? The desire to just keep your head down, do your honest work, and completely dodge all the office politics, the social maneuvering, the drama. But the text we're analyzing today argues that this is literally impossible. Why? Because powerlessness is unbearable to human nature. Everyone wants more power, whether they actually admit it to themselves or not. The second you try to withdraw and opt out, you just create a vacuum. And in doing so, you basically just become a pawn for the people who are actively playing. So like it or not, we are all in the game. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're extracting the core philosophy from some of the most ruthless and brilliant strategic minds in human history. The big, overarching premise of our source material is that our modern world is, essentially, a civilized war. It's not fought with swords or open violence anymore, right? But rather, it strongly resembles the old aristocratic courts of kings and queens. In those courts, overt in-your-face power grabs were heavily frowned upon, but the hidden, indirect warfare? That was constant and lethal. So we're going to uncover the foundational rules of this invisible game, and then zoom right in on the very first and maybe the most critical rule of all: never outshine the master.
Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We're going to cover 1. The game of power, 2. Unmasking the non-players, 3. Mastering your inner self, 4. Law 1, the master, 5. Transgression and observance, and finally, 6. How to play it.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the game of power and the concept of the modern court.
So, the absolutely crucial point to grasp here is the paradox of power. In the aristocratic courts of the past, if a courtier was way too obvious about wanting influence, the others would immediately turn on them and crush them. You had to look perfectly elegant and unbothered while secretly outwitting your rivals. And today, we face the exact same paradox. Our modern era demands that you outwardly appear highly civilized, democratic, decent, and fair. You've got to play the part of the ultimate team player. But if you take those rules too literally and act with just pure innocence, well, you're going to get crushed by people who are a lot more strategic. To survive, you have to be congenial yet cunning. As Napoleon Bonaparte so accurately advised, to wield true influence, you have to place an iron hand inside a velvet glove.
Which brings us to Section 2. Unmasking the non-players and the illusion of innocence.
You'll often meet people who claim that power games are evil or manipulative or just a toxic relic of the past. Well, the source text issues a pretty stern warning about this. Beware of these supposed non-players, because they are often the most adept manipulators of all. Just consider their hidden strategies. First up, flaunting weakness. True powerlessness doesn't usually publicize itself, right? Making a loud, public show of weakness or victimhood is actually a highly effective tactic to guilt-trip other people and completely paralyze them from challenging you. Second, demanding strict equality. By insisting everyone be treated exactly alike, regardless of actual skill or output, they're executing a strategy to redistribute rewards based on their own terms, basically pulling top performers down to their level. Third, using perfect honesty. Come on, we all know brutal honesty inevitably hurts people. Using it under the guise of simply being a good, truthful person is really just a subtle form of coercion and control. And finally, naivete. Even genuine innocence, like a kid crying to get their way, is an elemental, deeply embedded power play. Those who make a massive display of their moral superiority, they're really just throwing dust in your eyes.
Moving right along to Section 3, mastering your inner self. Because before you can play the game, you've got to build that internal foundation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive internal shift you had to make. We've got the ordinary mindset, which judges people by their intentions and their internal morals. But power dynamics, they are essentially amoral. In a strategic game, you don't judge your opponent by their good intentions. No, you have to adopt a master mindset and judge them entirely by the outward effects of their actions and the physical circumstances they create. Like, what does it actually matter if a coworker meant well if their actions literally led to your project's total ruin? It doesn't. You have to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. And to do this, you absolutely must master your emotions. Anger is the single greatest barrier to power, simply because it clouds your vision. If you get emotional, you can't see circumstances objectively, and you definitely cannot plan several moves ahead.
Okay,
Let's pivot now in Section 4 to a concrete case study of these dynamics in action, looking at Law 1, the master.
So, here is the law. Never outshine the master. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. See, whenever you display your talents in the world, you naturally stir up a bit of envy. That's just human nature, right? But doing this with the person who directly holds power over you, that is a fatal miscalculation. Masters, whether they're 17th century kings or modern corporate bosses, desperately want to feel secure in their positions. They want to feel superior in intelligence, in wit, and in charm. If you vaunt your gifts and try to show off just how brilliant you are, you don't win their affection. Quite the opposite. You inspire their deepest fears and insecurities, and I promise you they will silently find a way to replace you. To really cement this, we turn to Section 5, Transgression and Observance. After all, history provides the greatest classroom.
Take the incredibly tragic case of Nicolas Fouquet, who was the finance minister to King Louis XIV. So in the summer of 1661, Fouquet desperately wanted to secure his position and show his undying devotion to the king. So what does he do? He throws the most spectacular, lavish party Europe had ever seen at his newly built chateau. He had fireworks lighting up the night sky, a premiere of a brand new play by Molière, incredibly extravagant 7-course oriental dinners, the whole shebang. Fouquet genuinely thought he was proving his indispensability and excellent taste to his master. But exactly one day later, the king had his head musketeer arrest him. Yep, Fouquet spent the next 20 years, the entire rest of his life, wasting away in solitary confinement. And why? Because the party was so magnificent, it poked gaping holes in Louis's massive vanity. The king felt completely upstaged. I mean, Louis even went so far as to hire Fouquet's exact same architects and garden designers to build the Palace of Versailles, literally just to prove he was superior. Fouquet inadvertently made the master feel insecure, and it cost him absolutely everything.
Now, what's really interesting is contrasting Fouquet's total disaster with the brilliant observance of the law by the legendary astronomer Galileo. For years, Galileo was stuck begging for patronage, handing out his compasses and little inventions as gifts, just constantly struggling with financial insecurity. Then, bam, he discovers Jupiter's moons in 1610. But instead of just sharing the science, taking all the glory for his own genius, and outshining his benefactors, he executes a brilliant maneuver. He realizes Jupiter is the primary symbol of the mighty Medici dynasty. So, he publicly harmonizes the 4 new moons with the 4 sons of the Medici family. He literally aligns his masters with the stars themselves, claiming the heavens reflect the Medici's greatness. And the result? No way. He was immediately made the official court philosopher and mathematician with a full permanent salary. He didn't outshine his masters with his massive intellect. He weaponized his intellect to make his masters outshine everyone else in Italy. A real game changer.
But here is a terrifying caveat from the text. You don't even have to throw a lavish party or make a major scientific discovery to outshine the master. Prince Astor Manfredi made a fatal mistake simply by being himself. When the incredibly ruthless Cesare Borgia conquered Manfredi's city, he unexpectedly spared the town and let the young, incredibly handsome, and universally loved Manfredi remain completely free. But shortly after, Borgia had him imprisoned and drowned in the river Tiber. Manfredi hadn't conspired against him, he hadn't plotted some massive rebellion. His mere presence, his natural charm and undeniable grace made the monstrously vain Borgia feel less attractive and less loved by comparison. The sobering lesson here is that if you're naturally superior in charm, grace, or likability, you've got to learn to actively mute your own good qualities when you're around vain masters, or just avoid them entirely.
So, how do we actually use this today? Let's jump to Section 6, how to play it, and look at the practical application for your own career.
Let's break down discreet flattery, which is absolutely your most powerful tool. Overt flattery is way too obvious, right? It makes you look desperate, kind of untrustworthy. You need to be subtle. If your strength is that you're simply more intelligent than your boss, your tactic is to act a bit naive. Commit harmless little mistakes that allow you to ask for their expertise. Trust me, masters absolutely adore dispensing their wisdom. If you're more creative, ascribe your best ideas publicly to them, making it seem like you're merely executing their brilliant vision. If you're naturally more entertaining and charismatic, intentionally tone down your humor in their presence. Don't be the cloud that blocks their radiance. They must appear as the sun. Remember, disguising your strengths like this isn't a weakness at all. It is the ultimate form of control. You're actively managing their psychological insecurities to secure your own power base. But as with literally all rules in the game of power, there is an exception. If your master is a weak, falling star, you have absolutely nothing to fear from outshining them. The text is entirely unsentimental and ruthless about this. Remember, your master likely had no scruples climbing to the top themselves, so if they are firmly in position, you bide your time and practice patience, a supreme virtue in this game. But if they're rapidly falling from grace, if they're losing their grip on power, do not be merciful. Discreetly hasten their downfall, outsmart them at key moments, outshine them publicly, and just let nature take its course as you step right into their place.
We've covered a ton of ground today, stripping away all those comforting illusions of modern decency to reveal the velvet gloves and iron hands truly at play. So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Look around your own life, your office, your social circles. Who is actively masking their power plays around you with loud claims of moral innocence? And much more importantly, take a hard, honest look in the mirror. Are you inadvertently outshining your own master and putting your hard-earned position at risk? Keep your eyes open, master your emotions, and remember, in the game of power, you must never eclipse the sun.